Hey guys, John Cutton here. Hope everybody is doing well today. What we're going to focus the majority of our time on is how to effectively conduct the third and fourth meeting with a CPA. So sort of getting into some of the fun stuff here, which is how to create and ultimately position the joint marketing plan, and also how to actually ultimately share what the business opportunity is along with the financials that are in it for the CPA. So I'm going to do a cursory review of where we are up to this point, just as a refresher. And what I also wanted to do today to start is to go through our housekeeping. So by now, everyone should be pretty good with this. The first hour of the presentation, we're in listen-only mode. When we open up for Q&A, you can either use the raise hand feature to have me unmute your phone so that you can ask your question aloud to the group, or you can use the send question feature to write your question in. I will be able to see it, and then I can respond to that as well. So when we get to that Q&A section, just a reminder of how we actually ask questions on the call. From an agenda perspective, I wanted to spend a couple of minutes today reviewing some recent successes, both that I've had in my own business in working with CPAs, and also some successes that I've heard from our group in the last 3 or 4 business days or so. So why don't I start there for a minute? And again, guys, I do this hopefully to keep everybody's engagement level up, and I believe that when you hear about other successes that others are having, hopefully what that does is it helps to continue to keep you focused and motivated and be able to stick with the program, because as we all know, as you've heard me say a million times, it's not a sprint but a marathon, and those who are consistent in their approach for a longer period of time are going to be much more successful in the program. So personally, here's what I'll share with you. I actually got a referral recently, and I did a meeting just this week with an $8 million referral from a CPA firm. So great, unbelievably positive opportunity. Meeting went unbelievably well. I do not yet have the client, but I think that we've got a pretty good shot at getting this case, and I can't think of another way to get in front of an $8 million client than from a referral from their CPA. This happens to be a retiring executive with some options and kind of complex needs, and it could be a really great case for us. And most importantly, I think we're also helping the CPA show his value proposition to the client by being able to offer financial planning services. So that's something that we're very, very excited about. In addition, in my own practice, we just got a verbal commitment to purchase another small CPA/financial planning firm out here in the New York area. It's a CPA who does about 600 or 700 1040s a year. He actually has about $15 million under management currently, which we are going to purchase and roll into our own business, and we're going to then run his financial planning arm. What's interesting about this particular CPA, he already has a relationship with another financial advisor who just turned 70 years old. He has been doing the financial planning for the accountant and actually has an additional book of business of about $35 million in assets, and it looks like we're going to bring that CPA to my DD with a future succession plan over the next 3 years or so. So going back to the live training, when I talk about quantum growth, right, 3 ways to actually hyper-grow a business. One was buy it, one was recruit it, and one was CPAs. So there's a combination of all 3, and it all started with a CPA. So again, I think that's a great story as to how working with CPAs can really help you create quantum growth within your own practice. I had a call actually earlier today with an advisor in the group who just signed, who just had a CPA pass his Series 7. It's a CPA firm that has 14 individuals in it, so it's a 14-person firm, and they do 1,400 tax returns per year. And from what the advisor said, they're one of the most prominent CPA firms in their small area, in their small town. and have over a 60-year history in the community. So they're already beginning their marketing plan and starting to plan events and things along those lines. So that was very exciting to hear. I also heard just today, this was passed to me by Eric in the office, that another advisor in the group who has a CPA who just started the licensing process as well, just sent out invitations recently to a CPA's client base for a client appreciation event, and they already have close to 100 RSVPs that are planning to go to the event. So those are just some of the successes, guys, that we're hearing on our end. And as I have shared with you on previous calls, that's what I love to hear. That's exciting stuff. So if you don't mind, as you're having successes, continue to share them with me and my team, because again, I think that helps us all in the group to stay motivated and focused on really focusing with a laser, if you will, on the CPA program. So I wanted to also do an accountability check-in with you, which is really kind of, hey, here's where I think you should be by now. I believe this is the 5th webinar for this group. So being that it's our 5th webinar, here are some of the things that I believe you should have in place in your practice. And I want to go through that with you just as a check-in so that you yourself can kind of be self-aware, step out of your own practice for a minute, and make sure that that which we are talking about on these calls, you are actually implementing in your practice, which is going to give you the best odds to be successful with the program. Quickly, I'm going to hit the CPA relationship model. I want to do a quick overview of all 4 steps again. And remember, guys, my goal is I want this to become ingrained in what you do. So I'm purposely hitting things over and over again because I really want you to connect on it, connect with it, I should say, because as I've said to you before, I want you to be sitting in a meeting with a CPA already knowing where you want to go, already knowing how you're trying to push this relationship, and sitting there saying, where's my opportunity to move this to the next step in the cutting process. If you're able to do that and internalize it, that to me is going to be one of the major keys to your success. So I want to do that real quickly again. We're going to go through the review on how to transition from the lunch meeting to meeting 3. Biggest roadblock, guys, that advisors who are part of my group that are ahead of this group, that might be 6 months ahead of you or a year ahead of you, the biggest roadblock, or stumbling block, I should say, that we're seeing is the first meeting with the CPA goes well, the office visit goes well, the lunch goes well, and then somehow the transition from lunch to meeting 3 and meeting 4 don't occur. So I want to make sure that that transition goes smoothly, and that's, again, the option A and option B conversation, as I like to call it, which is how to set the table for meeting 3. Okay, so I want to make sure that we revisit that briefly today so that everybody is kind of on the same page and feeling comfortable, because that is a hiccup that a lot of advisors in the group are having. And then most importantly, I want to spend most of our time, I'm going to hit those first areas rather quickly. I want to spend most of our time going a little bit deeper into meeting 3 and 4, or steps 3 and 4 of the 4-step process. I want to actually demonstrate for you, again, what that joint marketing plan looks like. I want to show you how I use the tool with the CPA to show the business end of things, which is the spreadsheet that we've created to help show the CPA financially what's in it for them. And then lastly, I want to review and talk a little bit about the importance and significance of gaining implied permission. Okay, and again, guys, implied permissions is one of the big keys here. You've heard me say a million times by now, the hard part is getting the CPA to say yes. The harder part is teaching them how to refer, and it's going to be our leadership skills, our follow-up, and our follow-through that is ultimately going to ensure that the relationship works to the level that it can. And until the CPA buys in and you as a leader get them to say, hey, it's okay for you to be a pain in my butt here so we can both get what we want out of this, which is better advice for my clients and more revenue for both of us. Till we get there, we're not going to get those 12 to 15 to 20 new clients a year. And I want to make sure that once we get that CPA that's ready to join your program, that you're going to get the full benefit out of it. So I want to hit that as well, and hopefully we will have time to go through all of this today. And if time allows, as usual, we will open up for Q&A as well. So as you can probably see, we have a pretty full agenda. And what I wanted to start with, as I mentioned a minute ago, was just going through a quick accountability check-in. So we've gone through the live training, right? We spent our 7 or 8 hour day hearing a little bit about the system. We're going through a review now of what that sales process is. Our first webinar, we talked about marketing and building a marketing plan. And I'm sure what's happening in a lot of our practices is we're getting busy, we're creating activity, and what I want to make sure of is that you are spending the time and energy on the right things so that your practice, from a CPA perspective at least, is set up in a way that you're going to have success. And these are the things that I believe you should now have already completed. So first piece is, well, here's where we should be at this point, right? So the first piece is you should have a CPA marketing plan created. And again, we've sent you after the live training an actual blank copy that's editable of the marketing plan. If you haven't taken the time to do it yet, guys, please, you don't need to spend hours on it. Spend a half hour to an hour so you know exactly how you're going to grow this piece of your business, and share it with your SWAT team, the folks who are going to help support you in this, so that everybody understands what the game plan is. You should have already listened to all webinars. I'm noticing, guys, that not every advisor in the program makes the live webinar, and of course we send you the replay, but you should listen to all webinar replays to enhance your understanding of the program. If I were you, I would listen to the replays 2 and 3 times so that you really get to hear it over and over again and listen to it over and over again. So again, it becomes ingrained in you. Ultimately, you want to get to a point where what we're teaching you just rolls off of your tongue smoothly, and you know exactly when it is that you should ultimately integrate it into a conversation with the CPA. So again, the webinars are an hour. The reality is it's probably 30 minutes to 40 minutes of content in each of these that you can fast forward through the 15 or 20 minutes, that is, and get to the meat of things for those 30 or 40 minutes. You should have created and have an ample database. I always want you to have a minimum of 100 new leads to be calling, if possible, based on the location that you work in. You should have already assessed your client CPAs to input into your lead database. A lot of advisors haven't done that yet, guys. If you have yet to do that, those are the Glengarry leads, right? Those are the ones you're going to get the relationship with. So please make sure that you or your staff is culling your client base to ensure that you know who their CPAs are and that you have their contact information. HD Vest, First Global, Genworth Financial, more Glengarry leads. These, again, are people who are already in the industry. I told you a story earlier today about a CPA who's in the industry that we were able to take over $14 or $15 million for, right, or we're in the process. There's a lot of examples like that in the group as well that are going on these opportunities. So just because someone's in the industry doesn't mean that they're content and doesn't mean that they're happy. And these are really big opportunities, guys, to take on many clients all at once. Make sure you get those leads. We've given you some feedback on how to get them, right? We've got discoverycompany.com, discoveryco.com is one resource. If you have no luck there, there's also a company called stockbrokershop.com that if you asked in your area for reps that are actually registered with those BDs, you will be able to obtain a list in your area. Mastery of scripts and tools, right? You want to make sure that when you sit in front of a CPA, that number one, the scripts roll off your tongue. Number two, if you want to go through a presentation on a sample financial plan or a Morningstar report, you shouldn't be doing it for the first time in front of the CPA where you don't know what you're doing and how to navigate your own computer system. Trust me, I'm not a great technological person, but I've gotten myself proficient enough so that when I sit in front of the CPA, the way I present is smooth. And for those of you who haven't practiced it and have tried it, it gets sometimes a little burdensome in front of someone to try to figure out how to maneuver around your own computer system. So spend time rehearsing what that office visit looks like. You should have created a SWAT team, and you must inspect them for them to respect you. You must inspect for them to respect, right? So make sure that you are engaged in your SWAT team meetings and you're ensuring that the activity is being executed on. Continue spending at least an hour a week on skill development with your team. Continue to implement accountability structure to ensure 2 CPA appointments are set per week, 8 monthly. If you see 2 a week, 8 a month for 8 out of the 12 months of the year, not including tax season, you're going to be successful. I've yet to talk to an advisor who's participated in our program, done that activity, and not built several relationships. So if you do that activity, guys, that's the key to this thing, and you listen into the webinars and you practice, you're going to be successful. Create your own office visit material. Now, I've provided you with what I do for an office visit. You've seen it, and you have copies of it. You have to create your own, right? So it's specific to your process and your broker-dealer. So firm brochure, client deliverables, examples might be a sample financial plan, Morningstar report, realized, unrealized gains, losses, etc. You should have a little thumb drive that has all of that saved or have it on your laptop. So whether you're at the CPA's office or preferably if they're at yours, you can present it to them. And it should be something that you're proud of, right? Something that you give that show, and when you're done with that show, the CPA feels really good about you and your process. Show them why you're better and why you're different. You should have already had the difficult conversation with existing CPAs that are not reciprocating. Now, some of you did it right after the first live training. Some of you probably had a little nerves and didn't go out and do it. If you haven't done it yet, or you have other CPAs that you can do it with, get out there and make sure you have those conversations. You should ensure that you have a system in place to make sure that your random acts of kindness are done. These are lunches we drop off, shirts, tax survival baskets, poinsettias during the holiday, T-shirts, golf balls, lunches, bagels, donuts. You guys get the idea. You want to make sure that as part of that marketing plan, which is the first bullet point up here, you have a system in place to make sure that those things are happening. Time and time again, I'm getting feedback from advisors in my own practice and in my consulting program that they can't believe how much a little tin of cookies means to a CPA. So make sure that those random acts of kindness are happening. It's more important than you realize. Begin to pre-schedule your 4 CPE workshops over the next year. Should be part of your marketing plan, but a lot of you, as I'm talking to you, haven't scheduled them yet. Make sure that they're scheduled for next year, or for the next 12 months, I should say, and that you're in a position that you're already lining up your guest speakers, you're getting wholesalers, hopefully, to support the event, you have the right content, and that you're starting to think about which CPAs you know that would be appropriate for an invitation, as well as how you will mass market this to CPAs that you don't know. Mailings, email, blasts, things along those lines. And then lastly, and this, quite frankly, I haven't really touched on up to this point too much, but I have had some conversations with advisors in the group who weren't doing this, and I just sort of assumed that we would all put this in place in our practice. So you need to utilize some type of contact management system to track the CPAs that you've seen and to ensure that you're doing drip marketing. Every CPA you meet should be on your newsletter program, right? I'm in the process of hiring somebody in my practice to help me more with these CPAs that we have. She actually called me a couple of days ago in a panic, and she has a whole bunch of her own CPA relationships, and said, I've talked to 3 CPAs, and they all said that they hear from you on a regular basis. We don't have a definitive relationship, but they're actually getting my newsletter. They actually pulled up on their computer in front of this young lady who's going to come work with me, my newsletter that I sent the CPA that we began to work with, or I should say we met, but have not necessarily been successful in working with, a year and a half ago. So they do remember your name if you send them these things. And again, if your follow-up system is in place, every once in a while, even though someone might not have bought into your alliance program, your phone might just ring with a referral because they're hearing from you more consistently than anybody else. So guys, these 12 or 15 bullet points that you see in front of you, if you haven't done these things, you don't need to panic. But what I did want to do is kind of give you, let's pull up the brakes here for a minute and say, here's where you should be. Here's where I want you to be. If at this point in time you've done all of these things, I'm going to guarantee you're going to be successful. If you've done 75% of them, you're probably going to be pretty successful. 50%, not sure. 25%, probably not. Less than 25%, you really need to get yourself motivated and ensure that most of these things are in place in your practice at this point in time. So moving forward, guys, CPA relationship model, I want to show it to you for a minute. For today's webinar, for the sake of brevity, I'm not even going to read it to you. I want you to look at it. You should be looking at this every day. In fact, if you want, print it up and put it on your desk so you see it every day. If you can live this model, not miss any of the steps in between, you're going to get to a point where you're going to be successful. And the weekly, bi-weekly interaction, as we all know, that is the linchpin to getting referrals. If that happens, you're going to get referrals eventually. Okay? If it doesn't, chances are they might come in sometimes, but they're going to trickle in as opposed to being as abundant as we all want. As a review, 4-step process to initiate a CPA relationship. Step 1, introductory meeting. Purpose put simply, guys, and we hit these in the last couple of webinars. Introduce yourself, your practice, business firm's philosophy, find common ground, and identify a basis for continued discussions. Put simply, the goal of meeting 1 is to get to meeting 2. Meeting 2 is the office visit. What we just talked about, making sure that you have a process, you own it, and you can deliver it at a really, really high level. We want to show the CPA how we're better and different through our client-centric approach. End the meeting 2, we're going to lunch. Break bread, build rapport, get feedback on your operation. This is where you build your credibility. When you build your credibility, you're on the same level as a CPA, and that's where you will begin to be able to have conversations like meeting 3, which is how to make the relationship work, which is where we're going to spend the majority of our time today. We now have the CPA at a point where they're saying, okay, I like you, I like your process, this could be good for my clients. Now we want to show them how we're going to make the relationship work, how we're going to build awareness in their own client base about the financial planning services that are now offered, whether they're getting paid or not. Doesn't matter if at this point they've decided they want to get compensated. They just have to want to help more of their clients. Make that clear, guys. They just have to want to help more of their clients. We have to give them mechanisms and begin to become their consultant so they will follow us. Being their consultant is about helping their clients, helping them become a better practitioner by creating deeper relationships with their clients and giving them marketing ideas to create more revenue for their tax practice. Now, it may also mean incorporating a financial planning arm, but quite frankly, it doesn't need to. My own practice and other advisors are having success with CPAs who don't want to get paid, and that's okay. I'd rather them get paid because I believe there's incentive there, but it works many times without them wanting to get compensated. Don't lose sight of that. We'll spend a lot of time on meeting 3 today. Meeting 4 is business planning, right? This is the purpose of this meeting is to have what I'll call the business opportunity discussion, right? This is where we're going to show them what is in it for them. They've now come to the conclusion that they want a financial planning arm, they want to get compensated, or they want to do joint marketing, and we're going to show them what's in it for them, and this is where we're going to ultimately close the deal. So what I want to focus on, guys, is where a lot of advisors in the past have had problems. I touched on this before, which is quite frankly how to close out the lunch meeting and how to transition from that meeting to meeting 3. So the opportunity and responsibility conversation, guys, is usually, and again, remember, all of these scripts may come out at different times in different meetings. So this is the ideal way for it to happen. You've got to use your own sales skill to identify when it should be used. But ultimately, if meeting 2 goes well, and at the end of this lunch meeting, I was just told how impressed the CPA was with my practice, one of the things I want to do now is I know the CPA is getting excited, so quite frankly, I want to show them that I get the fact that this could be a risk to them. So the opportunity and responsibility conversation is designed to do that. So I'm going to say something like this, hey, Ken, I got to share with you, I'm excited about our conversation today, and this relationship really has the opportunity to be huge. It also could be a really big responsibility, and I understand that. So the relationship is both a big opportunity and it's also a big responsibility. It's a huge opportunity because with the relationships, Ken, that you have with your clients, I'm sure that 95% of them would meet with me if you suggested that they do so. Obviously, that's a big opportunity for you and I to begin to integrate financial planning into your practice. I also want you to know that I understand that it's also a really big responsibility for you. And what I mean when I say that is if you were to choose to refer me, I understand that your clients would hold you responsible if I don't treat them the way that they expected, or if their accounts didn't go in the right direction. I understand that, and I want you to know I would like you to continue to do as much due diligence on my firm as necessary so that you feel really comfortable with your clients working together with me. At the end of the day, I want you to understand, Ken, you are my client. That's who I'm working for here, and my goal is always to make you look good in all of your clients' eyes. Okay? So you guys have seen it before, but I'm going to talk about that generally in the lunch meeting if things are progressing well. What now happens is the CPA starts to see, hey, there's a business opportunity here, and John also gets as a business person what some of my reservations are. And you'll have some dialogue, right? Again, you're just hearing my end of the conversation. The CPA may very well chime in with some of his or her own information there and say, yeah, I am a little concerned about that. Gives you a chance to have some dialogue, right? Business opportunity discussion. I'm still at lunch, by the way, guys, and I hit this last time, so I'm going to hit it quickly. You remember option A and option B scripts, right? Option A is for a CPA who is actually ready for the marketing and business opportunity discussion and needs to be brought along slowly. So this is for somebody who, they're getting it, they feel is the dipping our foot in the pool before we dive in. And that's something that we need to make sure that we really emphasize. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to actually give the CPA a bunch of different options, and sometimes we may pick 1 or 2 options so that they can choose 1 or 2 little steps to take before taking the deep plunge and getting licensed and building and integrating financial planning into their practice as a whole. So again, you can see them in front of you on the screen. I'm going to go quickly because I hit some of this the last time. Here are a bunch of those different options as a whole. And again, the whole idea here is to get feedback, have dialogue, and to find something that the CPA is ultimately going to be comfortable with. Because if we get them to do something, we're going to continue to push that ball forward. Option B is for a very engaged CPA who's ready for the marketing and the business opportunity discussion. So we're going to have a similar conversation with the end result being to basically get to the point where we were able to go through with the CPA what our joint marketing plan looks like, and we in essence want to have that 3-option discussion and have that CPA decide to choose one of them. So we're going to close it by talking about the draft of a marketing plan and the spreadsheet that we've used to illustrate the expectations of the revenue that could be generated by offering the financial planning to their client base. Okay, so again, I hit this pretty deeply the last webinar, but I just wanted you guys to see it again and get into the flow. This, guys, is where advisors are not being successful. Getting from that lunch meeting to this next meeting, the 3rd meeting, where we're able to actually get them to say, yes, 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 I'll follow you, John, and really start to present our true value proposition to the CPA. So here we are now, guys, in meeting 3. So the idea in meeting 3 is we finished our lunch meeting. We've agreed to continue to have discussion, and the idea of this meeting is really to talk about how to make it work. So the purpose of this meeting is to begin to create a vision for the CPA of how this relationship could work. So you've heard me say before, individuals will follow someone who has a plan. Sometimes they'll follow someone even if the plan isn't very good. But the fact that we have a plan is what's going to be the key to our success. The CPA may not like everything we suggest or feel comfortable with it, and they don't need to. What we want to do is find a handful of ways to get the CPA comfortable. But most importantly, what I'm trying to do in this third meeting is get the CPA to see that there are various ways to build awareness in their practice. We need to be the marketing expert and consultant in this particular meeting. So what I'm trying to show the CPA is, quite frankly, that I've done this before, that I have experience, that I have a well-thought-through plan. So this would be a meeting where appropriate that I'm going to actually take out my joint marketing, what I call my joint marketing and integration plan, which you should see on your screen here. And you guys all have edited versions of this. And as you can see, and I'm going to walk you through this in a little detail, because what I find is a lot of times advisors don't take the time to actually read everything in detail that I'm giving out to them. So I put right in there as a disclaimer, and I give it to the CPA this way as well. This is a general outline of a marketing plan intended to just provide ideas and options for the integration of financial planning into your practice. This should and will be personalized to accommodate your personal comfort level. I'm going to show that to them this way. Objective is to expand the scope of services currently available to tax clients by integrating financial planning into your current practice in order to better serve our clients in a more complete fashion. Our approach: establish a schedule of weekly face-to-face meetings between John and Ken, where we will spend time learning more about how we can help each other's clients. In addition, we will discuss the best ways for us to build a successful joint venture. Examples include. So I'm telling them, and you have to emphasize this, right, guys, when you present it, hey, Ken, I've got to share with you this first piece here where we need to meet weekly or bi-weekly at the least. This is the most important part of the whole process. So if we do this, we're going to be successful. Okay? I need your buy-in on this, Ken. Here are some of the things that we're going to talk about. Discuss how to approach clients, announcement letters, case analysis, proactive calls we can make to clients, events, mailings, newsletters, emails, private dining events, educational seminars, etc. And we want to have a conversation and describe that. So, Ken, when I talk about how to discuss and approach clients, I should say, what I mean by that is what I'd like to do in these weekly meetings is each week, maybe we take one or two clients of yours and you tell me a little bit about them. You tell me about their job, you tell me about their risk level, you tell me about what you know about their investments, whether they have a 401k, whether they have a lot of interest income, whatever it may be. And I might be able to help you come up with a game plan of how we can help this client, or maybe we'll come up with the fact that the client's doing everything in their best interest. But that's, as an idea, guys, what we want to do. Announcement letter, right? We're going to whip out the announcement letter that I provided you guys with and say, hey, we can edit this any way we want, but here's something I had in mind as a way to ultimately build the awareness in your practice about how you've integrated financial planning. So the last 2 or 3 webinars, guys, that we're going to do in the program are, I call it 16 impactful webinars. 16 impactful webinars for weekly, bi-weekly interaction. And I will actually give you ideas and content on what to do once you've built these relationships with CPAs that are now meeting with you on that weekly, bi-weekly basis. But for now, this is just giving you an idea of what we're going to present to the CPA as what's to come as we begin to build our relationship together. Meeting agenda. During the weekly meetings, agenda topics and expectations will include, as I mentioned a minute ago, CPA to call targeted clients to offer financial audits, right? and we're going to show them maybe a script that we have that I provided you guys with. Using the complimentary portfolio review certificate, we're going to show that with their name on it already, so the CPA can start to say, man, this guy's got it all figured out. Mailings, client events, educational seminars, all of what I've provided you with, guys, you're able to use in presenting this marketing plan. So it's just not the plan that you're looking at on your screen, it's the tools that I've also provided you with and other tools that you may decide to create yourself that you can show the CPA how easy this is going to be. And you can hopefully start to see now, guys, as you're presenting this, as the CPA is going to start to view you as their consultant and is going to follow you because you have a plan. Activities, what we call proactive contact and passive contact. So Ken and John will identify 3 potential candidates that can benefit from financial planning and call schedule appointments for advisor weekly. Here's something I'm going to ask you to do, Ken. Ken will develop a list of influential clients, could include entire client base, in order to invite them to a client appreciation event. Here are a couple of the things that we could do tomorrow, Ken, to start to be proactive that will bring clients in. Passive contact. We could send an introductory letter. Here's a copy of it. I have a newsletter program that I'd like to begin to send to your clients with your permission. Here's what the newsletter looks like. Here's how we do it. During weekly, bi-weekly, we'll discuss potential clients match with potential topics. Implement a targeted mailing campaign. Let's mail all of your clients who are 55 or better about long-term care. I have a great article and a brochure on a long-term care product. Hopefully you guys get the idea. Under passive contact, we're going to establish a quarterly education seminar series. Hyperlink their website. Brand the office with materials. We've started to do a lot of this, guys, in our advisors, CPAs' offices, where our materials are there. It's great when we walk into the office and I see Cutton & Associates all over the place. I'm ingrained. I'm part of their practice. I was actually this weekend with a big CPA firm that we work with. I'm sorry, not this weekend, this week. I was out in New Jersey for their partners meeting, where we went out. They had a 2-day session to do business planning and things along those lines, and they did what they considered to be a what's the word I'm looking for? A peer building, a morale building conference where they did like a cooking class. And I was out there with 20 partners, you know, making pasta and sausage and meatballs, drinking wine, having a good time. We're part of their culture. That makes us more comfortable, right? That last step in my process is friends for life, right? I'm becoming friends with these people. Afterwards, we sat in the hotel bar. I brought around the drink, or I actually picked up the tab for all the drinks for everybody. But you know what? We BS'd about football and sports. These people are becoming friends of mine. That's what we want to get to. Accountability is part of the marketing plan. Update current leads that the CPA provided to the advisor. The results of the weekly calls by the CPA. Meetings the CPA had with tax clients for potential opportunities. Upcoming seminars and events, staff to be included. Mailings, drip marketing, etc. I've got listed, guys, for sake of brevity. I'm not going to go through too much detail here, but potential topics and event options. So we have client events, dinners, sporting events, potential educational seminars, retirement income strategies, wealth transfer, could be qualified plans. You get the idea. What we can do for private dining events. We're giving the CPA a full flavor of what it is that we can provide them with. So again, are they going to do all of these things? No. But we want to present to them as many options as possible so we can have them choose some of the areas that they're comfortable with. The goal as the relationship builds and we become friends is I could probably influence them to do any one of these things that I want. But in the beginning, I just want to take the route of least resistance and get that low-hanging fruit, right? Get them to do what's comfortable. And then I go through the activity, right? Trying to show the CPA, hey, if we do what we've discussed in this marketing plan, here's what I believe will happen and how we'll acquire clients, along with the number of clients or groups that would come, a reasonable conversion rate, et cetera, to ultimately boil down to for each of these, right, what we will do. And at the end of the day, based on my plan here, we get to a point where we have 26 new financial planning clients annually, and then I start to give them a bit of a revenue projection as a whole. So what I want to do, I want to make sure that you guys understand you don't always have to add that revenue piece for the CPA that I just showed you. What you want to do is do what's comfortable, meaning you can customize that marketing plan however you think is appropriate based on the personality style of the CPA and just how bought in he or she is at that point in the process. So we hit the marketing plan template pretty hard, guys. Become really good at presenting that marketing plan. It's not just handing it to somebody and saying, here's my marketing plan, what do you think? The way I walked it through to you, I would do it in even more detail than what I just did. You want to discuss, again, all of the client events that we talked about. And then you want to get buy-in on something. What did you think of the marketing plan? Once you present that to the CPA, what do you think they're going to probably say? Really impressed. It's thorough. I love the client appreciation idea. I don't know if I could call my clients every week. You have dialogue, and that's good, healthy dialogue. And what you're going to continue to show them is how flexible you are. I understand we don't need to call 3 clients every week. We're going to do what's comfortable for you. Maybe it's 1 a week, maybe it's 3 a month. But I think the key that I wanted to get across, Ken, is we need to have something consistent in place if we want to make this work. Maybe it's just events that we start with. Maybe you want to do the mailing to start with. Maybe it's the client appreciation event. It's whatever's comfortable for you. I wanted to give you some best practices of ideas that I've seen work before and pick what's right for you in your practice. As you're in this meeting, guys, we want to ultimately get to the 3 options to work together, right? So now I've gone through the process. They've seen my operation. They told me how great it was. I showed them how to make this work, right? And now what I want to do is to say, hey, Ken, there's really 3 options that we have to work together, right? So when I think about those 3 options, you guys have seen this script before. I want to deliver it really, really well, right? So 3 ways we can work together. The first is what I call a traditional handshake relationship. This is where you and I agree that if I come across someone who needs your advice, I would suggest you. And if you come across someone who would benefit from my advice, you would suggest me. Option 2, semi-exclusivity. In essence, we would both continue to work with other professionals, but would agree that we would both take the time to learn about each other's practice. We'd agree to meet regularly to discuss potential referral opportunities, discuss joint marketing, and truly become advocates to help each other's practices grow. Option 3 is really the same as option 2, except for now we're exclusive. And the reality is we have a couple of different options of how we could work together. Referral fees, solicitor's agreement, you get license and share revenue, okay? What I want to share with you is I'm really not interested in option 1. As I'm sure you'd agree, probably have 100 business cards of professionals that I've met with over the years, shook hands and agreed to refer clients to each other. Unfortunately, nothing's ever happened. Based on what you've shared with me about your practice, I'm really excited to enter into a relationship with you and your firm under either what I described as option 2 or option 3. Which of these options do you think would be most comfortable to you? When you give someone a choice, guys, they're going to choose one. Most of the time, they're going to choose option 2, and that's great because one of the pieces in option 2 is meeting regularly, meeting on a weekly or biweekly basis. This is how we begin to continue to push that relationship forward, right? So we have that 3-option discussion. We get, hopefully, them to say option 2 or option 3. We then want to reiterate why this is a win-win, right? I'm really excited about this, Ken. At the end of the day, this is going to be good for you, your clients, and me. And I know that's what we all want. And again, you know how to expand on that better. What I'm most excited about is the fact that we can provide a better advice package to both of our clients. And that, at the end of the day, is what we're both all about. Schedule meeting 4, right? So I'm not looking, unless they want to steer me to a definitive decision at meeting 3. I want to close meeting 3 by trying to suggest that we have another meeting to do some more due diligence, think about what we both spoke about, and if the CPA is now interested in the financial part of this, getting compensated some way, option 3, we're going to then go through the process of explaining how this will work for them financially. If they said they don't want to be compensated, the 4th meeting is really to continue to talk about the marketing plan and begin to take some action, right? Small baby steps, and ensure that we meet on a consistent basis to continue to educate each other about our businesses. So I'm going to make an assumption for a minute that when we're in meeting 4 here, that meeting 4 is designed because the CPA said, I'd like to hear more about how to make this a true business alliance and for you to create a financial planning arm within my practice. So meeting 4, guys, is the business opportunity, right? Is how to create the business opportunity. So the purpose of this meeting is simply to have the the business opportunity discussion. So you want to start that meeting, before I even go there for a minute, what you really want to do is you want to start this meeting by getting feedback from the 3rd meeting, right? You know, hey, Ken, I was really excited by our last meeting. Did you have a chance to take a look at that marketing plan? Any thoughts? Were there any things that you were more comfortable with than the others? So you're going to have a nice dialogue. Assuming they like 1 or 2 or more of those ideas, what I'm then going to say is, you know, Ken, as we spoke in our last meeting, it became apparent to me that we're going to be doing some type of business together and that we both are feeling good about each other. And I'm excited about that. What I wanted to do today is really talk to you about, based on that option 2 or option 3 discussion we had, and I'd reiterate what both of those were about, I wanted to have a conversation with you about the financial aspects of our relationship, and if you chose to, and I know at this point it might be premature, but what this could look like to you and your firm. And I'm going to talk about the fact that when I talk about the financial opportunity, I have 200,000 as an average client. You could use 200,000. You could use 3, 4. Depends on their practice, and it also depends upon the area that you live in, of putting together a tool that can give you an idea, and this isn't a perfect science, Ken, but it can give you an idea of the type of revenue that we may be able to create for your firm by creating a financial planning arm. So you had mentioned to me, so let's assume that the CPA had said that he or she has 350 clients. So you have 350 clients within your practice, Ken. I think it's very reasonable that in the next 5 years, if you look at that expected conversion rate, I think it's very reasonable for us to convert between 20 and 40% of your tax clients to joint financial planning clients if we follow the marketing plan that we spoke about. So let's assume for a minute we can create a 30% conversion rate over 5 years. 30% conversion rate on 350 clients would give you 105 financial planning clients. Now, you had said to me that your client base is not really high net worth and that the average client might only have about $300,000 of investable assets. So at $300,000 of investable assets per client, the average net fee per client that we would charge is about 1.1% on an annual basis. So based on those variables, Ken, here's from a revenue perspective what we can expect for your firm, assuming that your firm is earning a 20% payout on the business that we do. So based on those variables, we would bring in 21 clients a year. So in year 1, we would bring in 21 clients. At $300,000 per client, that gives us $6.3 million of assets. At a 1.1% net fee, that gives us just shy of $70,000 of revenue. Assuming a 20% payout to you, Ken, that would create almost $14,000 of net revenue to your firm. Year 2, we bring in another 21 clients, same 6.3 in assets, same 1.1 in fees, or another $69,000 in revenue. Now, what happens, Ken, is I create an assumption rate, if you look in the bottom left corner, that the assets would grow by about 8%. Hopefully, if we manage clients' money well, those assets are going to go. And we can change that variable if you'd like me to. But assuming an 8% rate of return on clients' assets, year 2, that 13,860 turns into almost 15,000, and then we bring in another 13,860 of income, which gives you a total of about $28,000. Year 3, we continue with the same growth rate. Year 4, year 5, here we are 5 years later, Ken, and at the end of the day, being 5 years in, it looks like we're going to be in a position that you are creating approximately $80,000 of new net revenue to your firm. Now, Ken gives me some feedback, guys, and says, you know what, John, I don't think I'm going to be able to convert 30% of my clients. Too high. I simply go to my spreadsheet and I say, well, what percentage do you think is reasonable? Maybe 15%, John. So I simply type in my 15% and I hit enter, and voila, what I now show the CPA is, well, what would happen in that scenario is you'd create $40,000 of revenue by the end of year 5. CPA says, I also, John, don't know that my average client only has $300,000 of assets. I've got some pretty affluent clients. What if we doubled that number and made it $600,000? I type in 600, I hit enter, and we're back to that $81,000 in revenue. So again, is this rocket science, guys? No. But some CPAs, or many CPAs, are visual. When they could start to look at this and say, wow, this means 5 years from now I can create another $80,000 of recurring revenue on a going forward basis, that's a pretty good thing for my practice as a whole. So I suggest that when the time is right, we use this tool as a way to introduce what the financial relationship could look like. And I've seen CPAs, guys, get very excited about it and ask me, can you change this variable? Can you change that variable? I think most importantly, what you're showing them is what the ultimate value proposition to their business is. And don't forget, we've talked about before, most CPAs make far less income than we believe they do. And with all going on in the economy over the last number of years, many CPAs are in a place today where they're really forced to try to look for other ways to create new income for their practices. So in this 4th meeting, we want to discuss splits, right, where those numbers came from that I was plugging in, 20, 30, 40%. I like to put it into a term that a CPA, into the same way a CPA thinks. So CPAs think of that income per billable hour. So you also want to put a time expectation by saying, hey, Ken, you know, in the beginning, the first several years, there's going to be a decent amount of time going into this. But let's fast forward to 5 years in. We've brought on most of the clients. We're not bringing on as many anymore because we've gotten to most of your clients. You have this business that, based on what I showed you before, is producing $80,000 a year. Based on my experience, at that point, I'm really in charge. I'm doing the service meetings. The clients are going to us for all their client service needs, etc. The reality is your time is very limited. Maybe, Ken, maybe you're spending 6 or 7 hours a month on financial planning, and that would be a lot. So let's take 6 to 7 hours a month. Let's call it 7. You have 12 months in a year, 84 hours a year. Let's call it 80 for a minute. And we just went through a scenario where we thought you'd be earning about $80,000 per year. Well, that's a pretty good rate, Ken. It's about $1,000 an hour. And, you know, to be able to earn $1,000 an hour of recurring revenue, to me, is a pretty good business decision and why I think this could be so lucrative for you. So talk in a way that they understand talking about billable hours. We also, in this 4th meeting, want to have the licensing conversation, help them feel comfortable with it, let them see and understand what exactly is involved in licensing, etc. And you guys, I provided you with the full-day training. with just a little cheat sheet on what the Series 7 is and kind of what topics it covers. And again, we position that to the CPA. As a CPA, if you were able to pass the Certified Public Accountant exam, the Series 7 should be real easy. And as you guys know, I'm a big believer in eliminating the obstacles. As long as your BD allows it, if you can pay for it, pay for it. If you can't, you can't. But if you can, don't have that obstacle in place. And then in that fourth meeting as well, if time allows, in this meeting, guys, the fourth meeting may be a fourth and fifth, depending on the dialogue, right? So I want you guys to always remember that this doesn't all have to happen in one meeting. They might spend an hour on that spreadsheet figuring out how much money they can make, which is absolutely fine. Give them as much information as they want. But then we want to get to what I call the pencil to paper marketing plan. And a lot of times I'll do this before I go through the revenue opportunity. So again, I would almost start the meeting by saying, hey, in the last meeting I showed you a sample of a marketing plan. What do you think? And then let's take some notes together so that we can create our own marketing plan with the ideas that you like from it for your practice. That's getting them on the yes train, right? And then once they're on the yes train, at that point, it makes more sense to show them the financial opportunity. Because now I know if they said, well, John, I didn't really like the idea of calling my clients directly, but I love the idea of a client appreciation event. Let's put that into the business plan. I didn't like the idea of calling my clients directly, but I like the idea of doing 4 workshops and sending a letter. Well, here's what that should bring in clients. So let me show you now, Mr. CPA, if we implemented those things, what it could mean to you from a revenue perspective. So guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop there. Next webinar, we will pick up at implied permission. So the idea of implied permission is really talking about once they say, yes, this sounds great, I like the marketing plan, the revenue, at some point in the process, and it's not always in this fourth meeting, only if it's a textbook moving along exactly as you want, but one of the important pieces is you have to let the CPA understand that once you agree and build out the marketing plan, the only way you're both going to get what you want is to implement it, and that you understand how busy he or she is, and at the end of the day, you need their permission to be a pain in their butt to influence those things on the marketing plan that they will get done to ensure success. That way the client gets better advice, the CPA is happy because he or she gets what they want, and you are ultimately happy because you're bringing in the clients and the revenue. I will speak with you guys soon, and we are going to open up the lines here for Q&A. Have a great day, everybody.